Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising as we update everyone on our plans for the State of the World Forum. And I'll be joined in a few minutes by my partner in these matters, Tom Eddington, who you all know is the co-convener of Humanity Rising. But I wanted to start with some reflections on the importance of such an event in a place such as Washington, which is where we plan to host the State of the World Forum between December 14th and 18th of this year at the Omnishorm Hotel. Since I live in Washington, I would say, painfully aware of the delusional nature of this town. It's delusional in the following way. Everything in Washington is about power and proximity to power. That is the currency here. Just like in New York, it's all about money and how much money you can make in Wall Street, on the stock market, and world trade. Washington, like many capital cities around the world, are localizations of political power. And the political power that's emanating from the Oval Office of the White House, within walking distance of where I am right now, is getting increasingly delusional. And I think it's important for us to just note the accumulating delusions that characterize politics in the United States. Because politics in the United States is both domestic and global simultaneously. When rationality prevails, rationality is emanated. When irrationality prevails, irrationality emanates. And it struck me with force today when I read Heather Cox Richardson. She's the American historian that every day has a blog, mostly on American politics, and there's uh, uh, many areas with which I would say I have a healthy disagreement with Dr. Cox Richardson, but she's worth reading and is one of the things that I take in daily, and I would recommend to all of you. She's an astute observer of politics in Washington, in particular from the perspective of American history. She's an American historical specialist. And she was pointing out something that I'd actually overlooked because I didn't take in his press conference on Monday with Prime Minister Starmer in Britain while he was opening up his golf course in Scotland. He was claiming to have settled 6 wars. And he proudly talked about, India and Pakistan and Rwanda and the Congo, and he's just fixing everything because everybody knows he wants a Nobel Peace Prize, which is delusional enough in itself. But to watch the President of the United States spin out pure fantasy about himself as a peacemaker was an extraordinary thing to take in, because I think he may actually believe that it is so. And of course, that's the root of delusion. Delusion is not something you know is untrue. Delusion is something that you believe to be true, even though it's completely disconnected from reality. And then there's the news today that the president is now, by executive order, going to spend tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to build this 90,000 square foot annex to the White House so that he can hold big parties. I mean, this is like Satyricon. This is like the ancient Caesars. Oh, I think I need more parties. So let's just spend hundreds of millions of dollars to completely reconfigure the architecture of the White House so that I can have big parties. When I was talking with Tom earlier, a few minutes ago, he was reminding me that Trump, remember, he got this $1 billion jet, a flying palace from the Emiratis when he was over there in the Emirates. It was his first trip as president of the United States for the second time. He went to Saudi Arabia and Dubai and the Emirates, et cetera, and they gifted him a $1 billion 747 jumbo jet that had been designed as a palace. Well, the Pentagon just earmarked another $1 billion to refurbish to Trump's satisfaction the $1 billion jet he was just gifted, which was already designed as a palace by people who know palaces. While simultaneously he's conniving with the Israelis to deepen the genocide. And he's completely lost track of the plot in Ukraine. And he's preparing for heightened confrontation with China. And he's just announced tariffs for almost every country in the world. Just contemplate for a moment the architecture of Trump's mind. Consider for a moment the implications of delusional power for the most powerful man in the world. It's an extraordinary thing to take in. And I raise this for our collective attention because this is precisely the reason why we want to convene the State of the World Forum in Washington, not far from the White House. Because one of the things that Tom and I are realizing more and more deeply, having conceived of the State of the World Forum in evolutionary, paradigm shifting terms, which was the central impulse, is that increasingly, given what's happening politically, it's becoming an act of resistance. Virtually everywhere we look around the United States, the corporations, the law firms, the academic institutions, almost everybody's just folding. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs are being eviscerated and are disappearing en masse. The clampdown on the academic institutions and the public square about anything that challenges the genocide in Gaza is stamped with anti-Semitism and is illegal. So the forum is shape-shifting as events unfold. And as Shakespeare said, no great act was ever done for a single reason, and we're beginning to take in that there are layers now of importance for convening a conversation like we seek to convene in Washington, D.C., as at least one place over a few days, which will simply engage in truth speaking and the kind of actions that are required to embed truth in the public commons. So I wanted to just open us up today with that comment and invite Dr. Tom Eddington to join me for his reflections on the state of the world. And then we'll move into describing what it is that we have planned. It's a very, very exciting moment for humanity, for all of us. The challenges are multifarious, the opportunities immense, and humanity has yet to find its way. So Tom, turn your video on. Welcome, and let's just start by you just reflecting on my opening in your own way, and then we'll dive into the forum.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I like you. I'm a very avid reader of Heather Cox Richardson. I've got a couple of other folks that I follow on a daily basis, and what I'm finding over the last 6 months is that I really need to be in the right mindset before reading the news. And I've had to limit my diet of where do I get information from. And I've now gotten it down to just a couple of people. And it's hard for me because I'm a very curious person. I love to learn. I love to explore and to find myself having to limit the publications that I historically would have gone to because of their capitulation, because of the bias, the editing, the things that they've undertaken. It's been hard to let them go. And I've had conversations with people who are at publications like the New York Times and have shared my observations and gotten very serious pushback. Um, and it's difficult to watch so many people in my life, professionally, personally, who have fallen prey to the misinformation that's out there. So, I want to celebrate what we're attempting to do with the State of the World Forum, where we're holding it as a platform for truth, and we're going in with an open mind that the discovery of truth is not an easy undertaking.
Yeah, share with everyone, Tom, what you found out about the oil companies funding the anti-trans movement, shall we say, in the alt-right, because I think that still reverberates in my mind as kind of such off the chart cynicism and corruption that I think people would benefit from you sharing that.
Sure. Yeah, happy to share. So, it's out of the old playbook from the tobacco industry over the last 50, 60 years that other industries and other corporations have picked up that playbook. And so, the petroleum industry knows the game is over. It's known it's been over for decades and has continued to try and find ways to manipulate the political system, to manipulate the economic system, to manipulate the media, and in the way that society holds the industry. And in the run up to the election last year, they committed $1 billion to help get President Trump elected. And for that $1 billion, he's essentially given them carte blanche. But they weren't happy to just sit with, all right, we have the ability to to dismantle the EPA and push through any number of initiatives through executive order. They wanted to be able to persuade the American people as well. And one of the ways that they've done that is to pour tens of millions of dollars into creating this controversy around transgender people in America. And have literally, 3, 4 years ago, it wasn't an issue by and large in American society. And with the tens of millions of dollars that have gone into the transgender issue here in the country, there were 450 pieces of legislation at the state and the local level in 2024. In 2025 already, we've seen over 850 pieces of legislation at the state and the federal level against revealing, tearing away rights of people in a transgender community. It's extraordinary, but it's been highly effective in getting our attention away from the reality of climate change, and it's despicable. It's as I said, we've seen this with other industries. The tobacco industry is famous for it, but the chemical industry and other industries have played this game, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, yeah. And just as in a parallel process, what the Israel lobby's doing around anti-Semitism, before October 7th, the mainstream universities, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, University of Chicago, Stanford, there was no discussion at all of anti-Semitism. The Jewish representation in higher learning is probably by ethnicity, maybe one of the highest out there. And everyone was just kind of going along. And then all of a sudden, when people started to challenge what Israel is doing in Gaza and calling it by its name, genocide, then all of a sudden you get this massive engine of social manipulation to transform legitimate protest into all of a sudden anti-Semitism, including the Jewish people who were engaging in the protests. They became anti-Semites as well. So that's just an example that's really fresh in our minds, that in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, you can see this steamroller coming through American politics and American media, in the face of which almost everybody just rolls over.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it this week with Brown University conceding, with Harvard University conceding, the CEO of on the anti-Semitic issue. Kaiser Permanente, one of the largest health systems in America, this week, the president or CEO determined that they will no longer provide healthcare for youth who are transgender. And Yale University health system made the same decision this week. And they did that on their own. There was no pressure yet. There were no lawsuits. They just conceded. It's heartbreaking for each of the populations affected.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's our context, everybody. We're in very severe times when external events and manipulations of media are impacting personal lives, our friends, families, and world conditions. And it's within this context that Tom and I and others are trying to convene the State of the World Forum. And I'd like to summarize a few things, and then Tom will comment. But one of the things that emerges from this complexio that we've just described is that there's an assault on truth. There's an assault on our ability to discern what's true, because everything is being turned into its opposite with the strategic intent to disempower us into an aimless relativism in which the derangement of a Donald Trump is sort of at the same level as scientific certitudes. And people kind of float back and forth without any way of discerning the difference between the wheat and the chaff. And that was really the impulse for the forum in its deepest sense, is our realization that the zeitgeist, the world reality, is that people, because they can no longer discern truth, are losing a capacity to discern meaning. And if you can't discern meaning, literally your world begins to fall apart. And that's why people are retracting from the news. That's why people are going into more personalistic enterprises, is they can't cope with trying to figure out the larger reality. So, but they can figure out their family or their local community. But that turning away from the polis empowers the forces of delusion, empowers the oil companies that they can get away with a manipulation around the trans issue just to get public attention on an emotionally polarizing issue while they continue to pollute the environment and cause more climate change. I mean, it's an extraordinarily sophisticated but simple contradiction in which we find ourselves. So what Tom and I went through is an exercise that actually lasted for a number of months. What could we say is actually true about reality, no matter who you are or where you are or what you're doing anywhere in the world? And we came up with four consequential truths. Number one, we're all facing accelerating ecological collapse. And that's true everywhere. No place on earth is now any longer immune from climate change. And severe weather events are plaguing us all. Number two, we're all facing deepening instability and turbulence at virtually every level of human affairs. It's extraordinary. And again, not just in the United States, but in Europe and Asia and Africa and Latin America, Pacific Rim, everybody is in an unstable situation, economically, politically, socially. The impact of just social media alone has been massively destabilizing on the human condition. And then number three, we've just unleashed artificial intelligence, completely unregulated. It's now exponential. And it's reaching singularity, which means it's now operating independent of human control. And number four, we're discovering cosmic intelligences, UFOs, UAP, the ETs, as a reality on our Earth. And that's when Tom and I realized, as we were contemplating these four consequential truths, we realized there are really four intelligences here. There's human intelligence, there's nature intelligence, there's artificial intelligence, and there's cosmic intelligence. There's extraterrestrial intelligence. And that's what we're convening the State of the World Forum around at the largest level. And within that context are these code red issues we enumerated as we began our program that find their place in the different truths that we'll be highlighting at the State of the World Forum. So I'll stop there, but Tom, why don't you amplify our basic gestalt in any way you would like?
Yeah, I want to pick up on one point you were making at the start of your comments, Jim, that as we're seeing people starting to go inward, just focus on their families and forget about the state of the world. Part of it is as you were saying, the inability to not only connect the dots, but to even see all the dots. And it's a tremendous challenge that each of us are faced with, trying to discern between not only what's true and what's not true, but what are all of the forces at work? What are all of the dots? And then how to connect them. And so that's part of the invitation for those who are going to join us either in person in Washington, D.C. or virtually, is we will endeavor not only in 2025, but over the next 6 years to reveal all of the dots and to enable us collectively to try and connect them. And I don't know that there's a single person alive on this planet that has the ability to not only see, but to connect them. But that's certainly our ambitious goal, is to take that on. It's an extraordinary undertaking.
Yeah, just to build on that for a moment, as we've been pondering how really to shape a conversation like this over the next 6 years from 2025 through 2030, because we know that a one-off conference is going to make any difference. One of the things that we're doing with real careful thought is to use the forum and use this conversation around these different intelligences as a fulcrum for translating conversations that matter into actions that make a difference. Because faith without work is dead. And if you're not going to do something as a result of what you're talking about, you might as well not have a conversation, particularly in a world of duress. So that's what we want to turn to, everyone. And Tom, why don't you tell people about the award?
Yeah,
Because
before I do that, I want to pick up on a question from Crystal. She asked,
sure.
where do you place spiritual intelligence? And it's a great question, Crystal. I've got a colleague I've been going back and forth with for months now as we've been doing this planning process. He's quite strongly pushing his point of view. The way I hold spiritual intelligence is not only does it sit in each of the four intelligences, but the four intelligences sit within spiritual intelligence. I don't hold it as a fifth intelligence per se. And Jim, I don't know what your take is on that, but that's how I would hold it, Crystal, is that it's embedded in each of the four, and the four intelligences sit within it.
Yeah, I think I would agree essentially, and I would add the point that the spirit crystal is omnipresent. It's in everything, that all matter, all manifest being emanates out of consciousness and returns to consciousness. So we didn't want to include spiritual intelligence as a separate category. And what we're going to be discovering as human intelligence meets nature intelligence and artificial intelligence and extraterrestrial intelligence. I think that's the interface and synergy between those is a guidance of spirit. And I'd like to amplify that in the following way. I've been pondering AI and the fact that horse has left the stable. I don't believe it's possible to regulate it anymore. I don't think there's the political will to do it. I don't think that the tech companies want it to be done. And so from a practical point of view, we're looking at a possible worst case scenario with AI. But if you think about what would happen to AI if it was shaped not only by human intelligence, but nature intelligence and cosmic intelligence, I believe that AI would naturally come into alignment with these other intelligences. And that to me is the work of the Spirit. That to me is the work of love, shall we say, because love is that which binds all things together as one and shapes them into something that's beautiful. But it's a very profound question that you're posing about spiritual intelligence, and we may change it as we go along. But for right now, Tom and I, having pondered the matter, that's where we came out for 2025.
Two other questions in the chat before I answer your question, Jim. Kim, yes, there will be the ability to attend the State of the World Forum online. Sometime probably this coming week, we'll have a link for people to register to attend virtually. We would be delighted if we had 1 million people around the world attending virtually and really having access to this conversation and to be able to contribute to it in the ways that will enable to happen. The other question was regarding the recordings of Humanity Rising on the YouTube channel. We can add in the comments section below a link to stateoftheworld.forum, so people watching it can find how to register and how to attend virtually or in person. We've got capacity at the hotel to accommodate 2,000 people. They've given us special pricing. We'd love to have as many of you there as possible. And if for whatever reason you can't attend in person, joining virtually would be delightful. Jim, to your question about the award, yeah, I'm incredibly excited to share a bit about the award. So we have this question, which is at the center of the forum for the next 6 years, which is how do we refine human consciousness to creatively respond to the challenges that humanity is facing? And we're offering an award for 2025 of $100,000 for the individual or the team. And ideally, we would like a very diverse team of people to come together in collaboration with each other and nature intelligence, artificial intelligence, cosmic intelligence, to answer that question. How do we elevate human consciousness? And the winning team will be selected and be awarded a $100,000 prize. It's amazing, and we're delighted to be able to offer that. Our ambition is that in subsequent years, it will be a larger amount, ideally as much as 1 million, and that we'll be giving multiple awards that will be by topic or issue area and in different parts of the world. And one of the criteria we're exploring is not only that the team gets the award, but they have to think through how does it impact the community that they're living in and have that as part of their criteria. So we're absolutely delighted to be able to do this. And depending on how we are with the success of our fundraising efforts, maybe we can increase the award this year. Right now, we're in the process of just finalizing all the details that we'll have on the website in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks, and we'll formally launch it. And we'll do what we can to try and increase the amount that's awarded beyond 100,000. But we've tested it with a number of people, and we've gotten great feedback that 100,000 is enough to motivate and excite people to enter the competition.
Yeah, I would just add a couple of points, everyone, and that is that if you think about the impact of contemplating how human intelligence interfaces with nature, artificial, and cosmic intelligences, you realize that the main focus of the forum is not to highlight crises and solutions, which is what we normally find at conferences. We have a particular problem. Here's the solution that we want to implement. We're really seeking with the State of the World Forum to catalyze a new paradigm for human understanding, not only of itself, but the larger ecosystem in which we find ourselves. And this is important because these other three intelligences are smarter and more sophisticated than we are. So humanity is really engaging in a second Copernican revolution. The first one was when we realized that the Earth was not the center of the universe, but we still maintain the delusion that humans are the apex of being, and the whole universe is basically here for us. And in fact, we asserted to ourselves, nothing exists of a living nature beyond planet Earth. It's all dead, inert chemical processes, according to the scientific method. And all of a sudden, up pop the ETs. And right as we're savaging nature, we're beginning to learn that nature intelligence is incredibly sophisticated. And then we pop out with AI. We take our biological intelligence and put it into machines. The invitation here, and the reason why this is a new paradigm, is this is the opportunity for humanity to transition from this notion, this delusion, like I just solved 6 wars. This delusion that we have a right to assert supremacy over nature by coming into an alignment with nature in sacred reciprocity. So the mentality that generated the doctrine of discovery, which we're going to be talking about on Humanity Rising over the next couple of weeks, is now ready to go out into outer space. And the State of the World Forum is trying to insert into the global commons a whole new way of understanding reality. And one of the focal points is going to be among the youth. We're going to have a lot of youth at the State of the World Forum, a lot of indigenous people. And imagine if we can get the next generation of young people growing up thinking about the 4 intelligences and honoring the spiritual intelligence that binds it all. That would be a seismic shift in human epistemology and in human consciousness, which is exactly what we need to solve our problems. So anyway, I thought I would just add that notion about the sort of I would say the philosophical underpinnings of the award, Tom. And have there been any other questions you've noted or anything else
Well,
you
I
want to
wanted to
comment?
pick up on something you were just sharing, and just share it with the audience that, as Jim was just saying, as you're, registering to join us in person or to join us virtually, it's an invitation and a caution that you need to be prepared to join into this conversation with the ability to be comfortable in the uncertainty of not knowing. This is a 6-year conversation on how do we affect that paradigmatic shift for humanity. And coming in with certainty that you have the answer, that you know how it's going to happen, I would caution and invite you to leave that behind and come into the conversation with an openness. Come into the conversation with the willingness to allow your ego to be dissolved.
Mm.
Come into the conversation with not only the hope and expectation, but the willingness to have your consciousness expanded. That's the invitation. That's the requirement if we're going to have the paradigmatic shift that humanity needs, that the planet needs, that all sentient beings need. I was in a conversation with an Aboriginal elder um, a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about the potential of her participating and joining us as one of the speakers. And during our conversation, she shared that not only are we risen from Earth, but Earth needs us. Gaia needs the human species to flourish. And I've always held that, we are in some capacity, we have a responsibility, we're stewards of the earth. But I didn't fully appreciate um, the important role that Gaia holds the human species, as she needs us as much or more than we need her. And so I just invite you to be open when you attend, virtually or in person. I think what I'd like to do, Jim, is just maybe spend a few minutes just talking about what people can expect when they join us.
Yeah. Well, I can lay out our thinking. Tom and I have been in deep conversation. So how do we do this? How do we do this? And we've come upon a basic principle. One is that because of the importance of the question that we're posing, we're going to not do what almost all conferences do, where you have sort of plenaries in the morning and a bunch of workshops in the afternoon, and people go into a lot of different things, and there's a lot of kibitzing. And that's a wonderful thing to do, but it doesn't shift the paradigm. And because we're focused on a paradigmatic shift, what we are concluding is that we need to have one single conversation for the entire time between the time we meet on the Sunday, the 14th of December, through the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we leave at lunch on the 18th of December. So we're going to all be in the plenary session for the entire time. We're going to open with an overview, obviously, of the next several days. And that will be contained within an indigenous ceremony and ritual of consecration for our time together. And then on Monday, there will be 4 plenaries, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and they'll be on the 4 consequential truths: ecological collapse, instability in human affairs, artificial intelligence, cosmic intelligence. So we're going to just walk through the different truths and the different intelligences. And then on Tuesday, we're going to really open up nature intelligence and cosmic intelligence. What is that all about? Veda Austin will be there, the great researcher on water that has been on Humanity Rising many times. I just spent a week with her, as you all know, in Chartres. Just unbelievable mind, extraordinary research. And we'll be having others that can talk about nature intelligence and artificial intelligence and ET intelligence, sort of from the inside out, as opposed to the outside in, which is going to be really what happens on Monday. And then on Tuesday afternoon, we're going to be talking about the language of consciousness. How do humans start learning mental telepathy, remote viewing, clairvoyance? We're going to have Diane Hennessy Powell, if you know her, the Harvard researcher on ESP, who is the research behind the telepathy tapes. And so she'll be coming, and others going to be demonstrating the facilities in psionics. how humans now are challenged as we interact with these different intelligences to learn the mother tongue, to learn the language of consciousness. Bertie Jaworski will be there. Chris Bledsoe will be there. And then on Wednesday, we're going to step back. And Tom's going to lead an all-morning session with people that he's assembling all over the world on healing, starting with trauma, apology, forgiveness, flourishing. And then on Wednesday afternoon, we're going to go into what is possible. And we have this incredible series of panels on everything from the king of Bhutan, talking about the happiness index and how they're tokenizing it with this genius from Brooklyn. I mean, it is mind-boggling what's going on out there. We're going to be talking about citizen diplomacy, which made a difference between Russia and the United States back in the 80s, and how consciousness back to spiritual intelligence, when you apply spiritual intelligence to politics, what's possible. We're going to talk about the ethics of exploration into outer space with, the chief scientist of the International Space Station, the guy at the Jet Propulsion Labs in Pasadena, Martin Lowe, he discovered what they call the interplanetary superhighway, that to go travel in space, you just don't go in a straight line. You got to go through these space tunnels. It's really extraordinary what's going to be. And then on Thursday, we'll be highlighting the strategic initiatives that have come out, the one on religions, the ET Citizen Diplomacy Corps, others that are beginning to take shape. The ethics for outer space exploration is turning into a strategic initiative. So you just imagine all that as a single conversation, and then you just come out the other side. It's transforming. It's the enlargement of the soul. That's what we're trying to do here. And it's incredibly exciting. Incredibly exciting. But Tom, you probably want to go into more detail on what you have in mind for Wednesday, because that's, in some ways, that Wednesday morning session is the fulcrum around which the entire forum turns.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. It's still very much a work in progress, but fundamentally, we know we can't go into the future if we don't deal with the past. Each of us, through our life's journey, either personally or ancestrally, have trauma that we've been carrying. And we need to provide the ability for each of us to heal that trauma. We all have people that we need to forgive in our lives, and we have people who we need forgiveness from. And we all struggle with apology. So how do we weave together this conversation of apology and trauma and forgiveness and integrate the tools of nonviolence to enable the possibility of human flourishing? And so that's the healing container that we'll be putting together with support from the indigenous leaders who are going to be in attendance, in support from experts on apology and forgiveness and nonviolence and trauma. It's extraordinary, and it's been fun to take on the challenge of how do we do it so that it's not just a skull brain experience for people, but it's a somatic experience. So that all of the people who are attending virtually and in person have the ability to do their own healing, to go into the afternoon in a conversation on hope, and to be able to do that in a way that's supportive of not only their personal but the collective. And from that place, then we can go into the do tank part of the forum and recognizing that, it's not a one-off experience. This is something that we'll be doing over and over again over the next 6 years.
Yeah, I think that the just to underscore a couple of the points you just made, Tom, about you can't go into the future unless you've really forgive and apologize for the past. It's also true that for any innovation to take root, it has to be connected with ancestral memory. And that's why we want to have as many indigenous people as we can gather at the forum, because they represent the ancestral memory. They're the one group of people on our earth that never forgot the other intelligences. They're in touch with the nature intelligences and with the star people, as they call the cosmic intelligence, on a regular basis, and have been doing that for thousands of years. They have the wisdom to help humanity deal with AI, I guarantee you. So we're very grateful for one particular donor that is making possible bringing 50 indigenous women and youth from around the world, and then other donors that are bringing other groups of indigenous and youth, because it's the indigenous that hold the past, and it's the youth that are living the future. And we want all of those to be involved in the State of the World Forum. So the forum not only looks like the world insofar as we can, knowing, by the way, that many of the people that we are inviting are from countries that Trump has said can't come to the United States because they're from S-hole countries. And so Tom and I are dealing with visas. We're dealing with all kinds of political constraints as we move forward. But insofar as we can, we want the forum to be past, present, and future in equal measure, so that we have the kind of container that we can build on over the next 5 years beyond 2025.
So I see a question in the chat from Bonnie about how do we effectively do this, keeping everybody in the same conversation and not have people just sitting there being talked at. And so it's something we paid a lot of attention to. We'll be starting each morning with opportunities for people to do contemplative practice or yoga that will be supported. We will have people seated in, depending on the configuration, tables of 8 or maybe 12. And the presentations and the plenary sessions will be 90 minutes, which is about the max that a human being can comfortably sit. And we'll take a 30-minute break. And then the hour plus for lunch, we'll continue to have people in a conversation, and then we'll finish up around 5 o'clock. So it's a very human-centric approach to how people are going to experience the week together. We'll have entertainment in the evening. We'll have lots of activities for people to get to know each other, to connect on the breaks in the morning and in the evening, and at the same time take in an extraordinary amount of information.
Yeah, and one thing, everyone, is we've been talking to some incredible musicians. You go to these conferences and there's music when you're coming in, and there's music during the breaks, and they help your mind kind of relax and your heart expand. And depending on what's going on, we're going to have lots of music, incredible entertainment in the evenings. The Omni Shoreham Hotel is what they call the Blue Room, which was the icon in Washington for decades between the 20s and I think the 80s, 90s, where everybody from Frank Sinatra to Aretha Franklin to all the greats of those decades, all performed. Beatles stayed there when they performed in Washington at the big stadium. So it's a landmark for entertainment, and we have more people who want to perform than we can possibly fit in. So that's going to be part of the whole. Think of a lot of ritual, indigenously led ritual and ceremony is going to be part of the whole. Chris Bledsoe and others are going to try to be bringing orbs down at night because the Omni Shorm is just outside downtown on 11 acres. So there's a lot of room outside. And then to uh, your point about how we allow kind of feedback, the lunches and the dinners will be in the round. And we're hopeful of having kind of single conversations at the dinner so people can really focus on what it is that we need to focus on. And so there'll be a lot of, I would say, exuberance, but also discipline. And if everybody goes through that process together, sharing together, absorbing together, celebrating together, that's the elixir for the kind of transformation that will take place with all of us as we go from the Sunday through the Thursday and then out to our various holiday festivities.
And one other point I'd like to pick up on a bit more is that, in addition to the annual forum each year and the awards, we're envisioning 4 to 6 strategic initiatives that will come out of each of the annual forums. And those will be happening throughout the year. In addition, we'll be organizing regional events across the world in support of the strategic initiatives, in support of other things that are not even envisioned yet, that will be supportive of this transformation of human consciousness and the paradigmatic shift that we're looking to achieve. So we're starting with this event in Washington, D.C. in December, but it will expand out over the next 6 years to be very inclusive and encompassing things that we can't even think of yet because we're stuck in that Einstein box that we've referenced.
I think we'll bring it to a close, and I would make uh, one comment, and then Tom, you can offer a final comment, and we'll transition to the after chat. And that is that, in and through all this, everybody, we have big plans for Humanity Rising. Stan has been in touch with some AI guidance material on how Humanity Rising and the State of the World Forum can begin to overlap. The categories of the forum, the categories of the Humanity Rising, how do they synergize together? We want as many of you to attend as you possibly can. We will be evolving Humanity Rising as the State of the World Forum grows over the next couple of years. And it may be that the time has come for Humanity Rising Network that you remember that we were envisioning. Didn't quite happen for a variety of reasons, but the time may be suitable again. So we believe that the forum, both for Humanity Rising and also Ubiquity University, will be a very, very good thing. And if you go on the website on the front page, the Humanity Rising logo and the Ubiquity University logo are there as strategic partners. So this isn't separate from Humanity Rising. This isn't separate from Ubiquity. This is integral to everything that we're doing to enable humanity at this critical moment in our evolutionary journey to rise together to a new consciousness. So, Tom, final thought?
Well, I just wanted to respond to another question that was
Sure.
posed about about the community that's coming together for the forum. And one of the things we're exploring is a technology platform that would allow all of the attendees prior to the forum to connect with each other, get background, their bios, their contact details, so that people aren't spending their time at the forum trying to find or locate people or learn about each other, but also so that this community, both virtually and in person, stay connected throughout this 6-year journey and support each other and help move things forward. And that will be an important piece of what we're attempting to do. And we haven't found the right technology platform yet, but we're exploring them. And that's going to be a part of the quote unquote infrastructure to make this happen. And excited to be able to announce that when we made a decision on what platform we'll use.
We'll have more updates as the world unfolds at one level and as the State of the World Forum continues to take shape over the next several months. The world will no doubt change many, many times before December 14th. And we're doing our best to be mindful of that, everyone, and appreciate so much your ongoing support. I want to close with a personal note of gratitude to each and every one of you. For me, the State of the World Forum is really the most important thing I've ever taken on, because its motivation is to change the paradigm in and through which we humans understand ourselves in the larger ecosystem of life. I've never done anything at that scope before. And it's going to take all of us together to accomplish this great task. There are forces arrayed against us. There are complications in our environments that provide obstacles to goodness emerging to a critical mass in our world. So we don't minimize the challenges, but we know it's possible. And therefore, we're embarking on this work. And I want to make just a personal statement of how much I've appreciated and relied on Tom. When Lynn Twist gave me the news from the plant kingdom that these were my new orders, Tom was my first call. And so, Tom, I just want to thank you for showing up, and thank you for your wisdom and complete trust in the process in which we're engaged, because it's been very necessary for me. I couldn't have done this alone. I needed a brother. And so I just want to thank you in front of everybody in our community, how much I appreciate everything we're now going to do together in the support of our community. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome, Jim. I echo your comments. As some of you know, I've taken on some extraordinarily ambitious goals in my life. And when you contacted me and talked about taking this on in partnership with you, if I look at everything I've accomplished, done in my life, this is all of those times 10, times 100, times 1,000. I don't know how big it is. I feel it on a daily basis as we're in conversation with people who are wanting to help, who are wanting to support, and realizing the enormity of the task. It's Herculean, and It's a gift to be doing that with you, and so grateful for this community.
So thank you, everyone. You'll see the link to the chat group in the chat next to your screen. You received the link to the chat after chat in your Zoom reminders for today. We'll be bringing more updates as life unfolds. And thank you all so much. We love you dearly. Bye for now.